So I didn't get through most of the videos I had because either my modem is dying or this internet service provider sucks. Either are very plausible. At this point, I could do nothing about either one at this point. I'm not too worried. Right now, things seem to be going well, so I'm going to continue ahead with my videos here as much as I can. I had a lot of topics to get to, and maybe I should take this to some degree as an indicator that certain topics maybe I should just leave buried. But for now, I'm just going to go with what I'm going with, and if the night allows, I'm going to go into more in-depth topics. One thing I wanted to say is there is a person who is trying to go around and saying that when all is said and done, gamers must be omitted from the discussion on video game violence. I could understand if this necessarily provided a conflict of interest, and to be honest with you, in some gaming circles it does. They cannot see through the numbers. They can't see through, or they don't care about the research because they feel that their favorite pastime is being threatened. But then again, the same thing can be said absolutely of the anti-game lobbyists. They want to claim that this has had a direct impact on certain people's lives. They want to bring up little Johnny and have, well, now grown Johnny, talk at nauseum about how video games ruined his life, how only through the power of the Lord was he able to get rid of the evils of video games and become a productive, moral member of society, right? And I'm not just saying that it's just religious people who are doing this, but I've read these ridiculous chain emails that I've read from all different types of groups. Everybody's kind of unfortunately a part of it. But the idea of just making this story that they'll later say was supposed to be hyperbole or metaphor, that there really isn't a little Johnny or what have you, and how is that honest? How is that being intellectually honest? And how does that make you better than any of the gamers in this discussion? I'm a gamer, though I tend to try to be a realistic gamer, and I tend to try to see things for what they are. If I could find enough corroborating evidence to show that yes, indeed, this is having an impact, do you honestly think that I would forgo talking about the impact? I'm sure some of these researchers on some level have been a gamer or gamers at their time, but they still present the facts as they see them, whether they don't like the new kind of gaming or otherwise. Because in science, morality is not a testable, weighable, measurable factor. In general, morality is not a testable, weighable factor. Human nature, now that is something that can be put on the chopping block and tested, as we have done on so many occasions, and been shocked, at times even to the point of suspecting bias in the studies, even if the studies hold true, because we don't like the sound of the word human nature. We don't like what that implies. But along comes somebody by the name of Leland Yee. Gamers have no credibility in violence debate. So let me get this straight. The people who are being exposed to evils, as it were, the people who are being affected by the media, they have no credibility, despite having families who have a longitudinal history of gaming and no violence, and so on and so forth. No, they have no credibility because they're gamers. Therefore, we have to disagree with the fact that they want to speak out, or that they want to be tested, or might want to stand up and say, yeah, I like shooting video game characters in the face. I probably wouldn't know what to do with a gun if I had it in my hand, and I'm probably not going to be able to shoot them in the face. I'd probably shoot myself in the foot, and therefore, I want nothing to do with a real gun. But no, 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 I'm not credible. Even if I've done years of research, because I'm a gamer, I'm not credible on video game violence and its effects. Just like I'm not credible if I talk about movie violence, despite being in the 80s, probably one of the bloodiest and most sex-filled time for a great deal of the time before we got these rating systems and decided to clean up TV here in America. No, no, I don't count. I don't count in everything else because why? Well, let's read this article. I may be going a little bit longer here. Says we should all just be quiet while men like him do the talking. Yes, this is one of those articles. Leland Yee, a man famous for lying about video games and draining huge amounts of tax money into his war on the industry, has suggested those affected by his bullshit should keep their mouths shut. Or affect, not effect, excuse me, affected by his bullshit. According to the hypocritical liar, we care nothing outside of our lust for violence, and should leave the debate in his capable hands. Quote, gamers have got to just quiet down, said the man whose vendetta once cost taxpayers $1 million. Gamers have no credibility in this argument. This is all about their lust for violence and the industry's lust for money. This is a billion-dollar industry. This is about their own self-interest. Park on the kettle black. Excuse me. I had a sudden cough there. Do I really need to read the rest of this article? How many times have we heard this? Oh, I've heard this in circles of, oh, atheists know there is a God. They're just angry at God, or they just want to keep on sinning. But they can sin all they want because come judgment time, they're going to hell. Because, yeah, you boasting about that makes you so much better, let me tell you. Yeah, no, this is an out-and-out assumption. This is a boast. This is trying to say, I'm unbiased. I mean, I hate the industry and everything it stands for, but I'm on the side of morality and purity, not this smut-peddling industry. You have no credibility, dear gamers, because you're smut hounds. All you want is smut, 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 and more smut. And if anybody dares to suggest that we take away or cut down on your smut, you're ready to bludgeon us to death to fulfill your real-life destiny of where video games will lead you to. My friends, my fellow Americans, turn away from the evils of the video game industry using their Roman numerals. As we all know, only Satan and Romans who were anti-Catholics ever dared to use Roman numbers. This is clearly a sign of immorality, teaching our kids about Satan and Satanism, and how wonderful and delightful that it is. We must turn away from this. Repent, dear gamers. Save your souls. In other words, this is like the don't be gay because God hates gays, but if you'll excuse me, I've got a cabana boy waiting at my hotel room in my place, and I'm going to go have some what I feel is probably guilt-free sex because do as I say, not as I do, if I'm going to reveal that to you. You know, these people who spend their lives riling against something and then they're either secretly in on it or what have you. Look, I'm not going to say that at times this medium doesn't sometimes go a bit far. But then again, there's Saw movies. There's movies that I don't personally get, that I care nothing about, that just watching them does nothing for me other than actually make me want to vomit, and not in a good way. But you know what? I'm not going to take the Saw movies away just because I just don't get the appeal. I don't understand why there needs to be a movie that is gore for the sake of gore. And granted, I love Machine Girl and Robo Geisha, which are some of the Japanese gory movies. Not the goriest, but pretty gory. I can't stand Tokyo Gore Police, but I'm getting off on a tangent here. The point is, just because I don't understand something or don't necessarily agree with something, unless I have something outside of personal taste and morality to hold it to, I have no grounds on which to call for some sort of a ban, if I were to be the type of person to call for a ban. But this is just mean-spirited, anti-productive, and just plain stupid, not to mention hypocritical, but I digress. Leland, what the heck? You are the exact same type of person who seems to say or act that us gamers were either brainwashed or we can't be civil because my God, our brains are full of violence. We can't be decent individuals. And you're unwilling to talk to us on an adult level and then act as if we're the ones acting like children who deserve to sit at the children's table. I actually put it to you, Mr. Leland. What gives you more credibility than most of us, especially myself? I submit myself, sir, a man who has spent years trying to figure out if there is even the slightest hint of a link between actual video game violence and real-life aggression or massacres. And I would care, and I would rile against, if these were shown to actually have any effect on video gamers as a whole, or even in a part. I might start saying, well, hey, maybe we need to start looking at this medium deeper. But thus far, I have seen no links outside of Bandura and all that junk research that I've already talked about in my series that is down on a playlist on my channel page. And I still have that challenge. In fact, you can do it yourself, Mr. Leland, who I'm sure will not see this, and I don't really care one way or another. Show me 10 studies that show that there is a direct cause and effect between video game violence and actual physical violence that was committed by people who were studied. And I will shut down I will delete my playlist and I will say I was wrong. Can you really pass that up?